I'm Olya Klueppel, and we are here to talk about digital, sustainable, and profitable. And I wanted to explain to you why debt could be a key component of that. First, a few words about GP Bullhound. We are a global tech advisory and investment firm with 180 people in 11 offices around Europe, Asia, and the US. I think in everything we do, we focus first and most of all on the tech entrepreneurs. We pride ourselves with partnering with the best founders throughout their whole journey, supporting them with advisory, capital, both debt and equity, research insights, and most importantly, also access to our global network. Over the past 20 years since founding the firm, we've worked with over 500 tech businesses, assisting in all steps of their life, from business plan creation to funding to acquisitions, and all the way to exit and co-investments. I will focus on debt investments. We are here at NOAH Digital, and obviously I don't need to tell you that our daily life, both professional and personal, has changed throughoutly by technology over the past decade. However, the availability of data has transformed many business models. It hasn't yet transformed large-scale debt financing. It's very much done so as in the past 25 years. There has been clearly a number of fintechs, such as revenue-based financing models, that have started to introduce innovation. However, most of these offerings are still fairly small, and many of them do not exceed 5 million. For larger debt financings, the structures, whether it's venture debt or bank financing or asset-based lending, is basically the same as it has been for the past 2 decades. And it's not tailored, so a company, whether they're in Series A or a Series C, whether they're a payments business or an enterprise software business, they basically get the same term sheet. And I think that needs to change. And within GP Bullhound, we plan to change that. How do we want to do that? I think the changes seem quite simple. First, we want to actually listen to the business and understand what their needs are. Therefore, we try to create a customized offering rather than force them to take a very specific and very standardized term sheet. Secondly, we are mostly focused on your business and what your business does, rather than who your equity investors are. Within GP Bullhound, we focus on 4 verticals that are software, digital media, fintech, and marketplaces. We don't only have deep sector expertise in these areas, but we also offer you relationships so we can actually further your business. Thirdly, we actually use data. So we use business and operational KPIs, and we combine them with our internal proprietary data within GP Bullhound. And therefore, we are able to make decisions based on this data rather than employ external and often very expensive advisors. And lastly, we do it quickly, which means if you come to us, we tend to, from the few days, we take just a few days between receiving data and actually providing you with an answer, yes or no, can we provide financing, and what the type of that financing will be. I have personally been doing debt financings for the past 20 years, and I have seen how the debt financing market has changed or not changed over the past 20 years. And therefore, within GP Bullhound, we are trying to really make it a difference and build a credit business focused on the needs of entrepreneurs rather than focused on the needs of the lenders only. And here, I thought it would be most interesting to really do a few case studies, what we do differently. So right before me, Mirko Kaspar has explained Mr. Specs. And Mr. Specs is obviously a great business. They run their stores profitably. The consumers that buy their glasses get great service. And Mr. Specs, as a business, actually earns money, as the business should, on every pair of glasses sold. However, for their stores, they require significant capex. That capex is required for both store fit-out and for build-up of inventory. Mr. Specs, of course, has access to capital, both debt and equity. But financing inventory with equity alone clearly makes no economic sense. Therefore, within our team, we provided a customized solution to the business, which allowed them to expand their network of stores from 10 to 40. Now they're at 48. And in comparison, the bank financing at the time was not sufficient in volume, even though it was particularly cheap, but it couldn't allow them to do the the whole rollout. And classic venture debt was really quite inflexible because it required amortizations, and it was quite expensive because it required warrants. Another example is actually a HR software business in the Nordics, where we provided an acquisition facility, which was then used as a working capital facility following the integration of 4 different businesses. If you recall, most in classic financing, most of such acquisition financings are effectively done on a very stable formula, which is tied to the EBITDA of a particular business. However, in this particular case, there were 4 companies being combined. 2 of them were profitable businesses with stable clients. One of them was an unprofitable business, but with a great product that was actually expected to cross-sell across the whole company. And the 4th one was a highly growing business that was at cash break-even. So therefore, the banks in this particular case were very willing to finance a local business. These 4 companies were actually in 4 different jurisdictions, but was not willing to finance the other 3 businesses, which created a dilemma for the business. On the other side, obviously, venture debt also didn't work because, again, they required significant warrants and they required amortizations, where this business was really looking to invest into growth. We executed this facility fairly quickly. It was a 12.5 million facility. Between review of the KPIs and the term sheet, it took just a few weeks. And more importantly, we actually thought about what is valuable in this business, and therefore didn't take the approach that we take collateral over everything, but we actually really focused on things that mattered. Another example, there are obviously lots of great software businesses in Europe, but many of them are potentially dominant in their own countries, but they certainly need room to grow. In this particular business, it was actually successful entrepreneurs who had sold their previous software business for over 100 million, reinvested about 20 million in the new business, have dominated their market, are focused on primarily banks and insurance companies and clients, and therefore the next step was for them to go to the US. Of course, financing US has different, or success in the US has very different implications for the value, for the valuation of the business, meaning before US, the valuation is X, and after US, or success in the US, the valuation is much, much, much higher. Therefore, we created a facility that allowed them to, first of all, draw over time. So they were not forced to take all of the capital right away, but really take as needed. And also allowed them to not, again, give up warrants, because that was quite expensive to them, but to provide a facility that actually made sense for the business and was in line with the risk profile of the business. I think maybe the last example is a classic example of asset-based financing, where in this particular case, we looked with a digital platform enabling hybrid work in a sustainable manner. The company effectively rents furniture, electronics, as well as services to enterprise clients for both home office use, but also for the office. There is a significant sustainability component because both furniture and electronics are then assigned to different people and are reused rather than are sitting somewhere in the closet. And then again, for a classic asset-based financing, most asset-based financiers actually require then a 3-year track record, and they require very specific assets to finance. That means that they literally force you to buy specific chairs because they know what the value of these chairs are, but you cannot provide variety to a client. But in this particular case, we looked at the business very differently. We recognize that they have stable clients, they have stable enterprise clients, long-term contracts, and therefore we provided them with the flexibility to draw this facility over time without really forcing them to do very specific operational changes to the business that didn't make sense. I think I ran out of time. I think I wanted to explain to you that there are different ways to do business. I think we are trying to change how debt is done. And I think data today enables us to do that. And so I would be very, very happy to address any questions that you might have after the presentation.
Thank you so much, Olya.